Welcome to the AITA network. These Am I the AH posts are trending this week, and once you hear what happened, you'll see why. Let's get into the stories and decide who's actually at fault in the comments. Am I the AH for kicking my sister out of my house for telling my husband he's lucky to have so much money? My husband lost both of his parents when he was 16 years old. Their deaths were the result of circumstances that should never have happened, and several other people lost their lives as well. Because of that, a lawsuit followed, and while still very young, my husband was left without parents, but with a significant amount of money. That money was never something he felt grateful for, though. It came at the cost of losing the two people he loved most, and he would give it all up in a heartbeat to have them back. We met a few years after everything was settled, and after dating for 4 years, we got married. Today we have one child together and live a comfortable life. We're fortunate, but we're not flashy, and very few people know exactly how much money my husband has. He's careful with it and invests wisely. We both still work hard, but the financial security gives us a lot of peace of mind. My parents and my sister know that my husband's parents passed away. They're also aware that a lawsuit happened and that compensation was involved, but they don't know the details or the amount. What they do know is that my husband has always said he'd trade every dollar he has just to have his parents back. This is why what my sister said completely crossed a line for me. We had my family over for dinner one night, and the conversation was light at first. My sister talked about bringing her boyfriend to future family events, then mentioned wanting to take a trip with him and how they were saving up for it. My husband casually mentioned that we'd been to the place she was talking about and that they'd enjoy it. She laughed and said she hoped so, but added that she didn't have the kind of money he did. He replied that we didn't do anything extravagant there, which was completely true. Everything was fine until my sister suddenly said that the least my husband could do was pay for their trip since he could afford it. I immediately cut her off and told her she wasn't entitled to anyone else funding her vacations. She pushed back and said he could easily afford to send them away for a whole month if he wanted to. My husband calmly told her that was a big request, and that's when she snapped and said he had no idea how lucky he was to be rich, adding that she'd give anything to have that kind of money. That comment infuriated me. I told her to leave immediately and made it very clear that I wasn't tolerating that kind of behavior or disrespect. Since then, she's been telling me almost daily that I overreacted and that kicking her out was too much. I told her I don't want to hear anything else from her for a while. Am I the AH for kicking my sister out of my house for telling my husband he's lucky to have so much money? Leave your thoughts below. Now let's get into another AITAH story. Am I the AH for telling my wife either share our lottery winnings or we divorce, and I get half either way? My spouse and I recently got incredibly lucky and won a solid sum of money through Lotto. It wasn't the jackpot, but it was more than enough to completely clear our large mortgage and still leave room for a few family trips. The mortgage had always been our biggest regular expense, and once that was gone, we'd finally be able to breathe financially. We had talked for years about how, if this ever happened, we could both reduce our work schedules to school-hour shifts and actually spend more time raising our kids. That had always been the dream we joked about when buying tickets, and I genuinely believed we were on the same page. Once the winnings came in and the house was paid off, things took a sharp turn almost immediately. My wife began excitedly talking about how incredible it would be to quit her job entirely. That caught me completely off guard. Even without a mortgage, we'd still need both incomes, at least part-time, to maintain our lifestyle, and relying only on my pay would leave us stretched thin. I asked if she was being serious, and she responded that she absolutely was, adding that it was her ticket and therefore her decision. That didn't sit right with me. We'd always purchased lottery tickets together, and after moving in, we agreed to buy just one since buying two felt unnecessary. I tried calmly explaining that she could take occasional unpaid time off or reduce her hours, but fully quitting wasn't realistic. When I mentioned that I planned to work reduced hours myself, she completely exploded. She accused me of using her for money and claimed I was ruining what should have been the happiest moment of her life. She went on about how she'd worked hard for decades and deserved this freedom. I eventually asked for the conversation to stop because I was genuinely shaken. This behavior was nothing like the person I married. Over the following days, we attempted to revisit the discussion, but she refused to compromise. Then she casually announced that it no longer mattered because she had already decided to resign from her job. That was my breaking point. I told her I couldn't accept this situation, and if she wasn't willing to treat the winnings as shared, especially since everything was in both our names, I would pursue a divorce and receive my half through the house anyway. That led to yet another screaming argument, with her once again calling me a gold digger. I'm completely drained and don't know what to do anymore. It feels like the woman I married is gone, replaced by someone I don't recognize. Honestly, if I'd known this would be the outcome, I would have preferred never winning at all. Am I the AH for telling my wife either share our lottery winnings or we divorce and I get half either way? Please leave your thoughts below and subscribe if you haven't already. Now let's get into the last AITA story. Am I the AH for choosing my education over paying for my sister's husband's surgery? My sister and I lost our father about a year ago. He was the only parent we ever had, since our mother was never involved in either of our lives. When he passed, he left behind money for both of us. My sister spent her share on new vehicles and remodeling her home. I'm currently staying with my aunt because my brother-in-law didn't want me living with my sister. I plan to use my inheritance to pay for college. Becoming a doctor has always been my dream, even though I haven't chosen a specialty yet. My relationship with my sister has never been strong, but it became worse after she married her husband, who is chronically ill. He made disrespectful remarks about our dad, mocked his sickness, and even caused a scene at the funeral. Everyone excused it by saying his illness meant he couldn't be held responsible. I pulled away, but recently my sister started coming around more often, venting about her husband's declining health. He's been hospitalized multiple times for heart issues and now needs surgery. During these visits, she repeatedly mentioned my inheritance, and I kept shutting the topic down. Eventually, she directly asked if I could help pay for the surgery, promising to repay me within a year. I felt uncomfortable because the amount she needed was significant, and there was no certainty I'd get it back before it was time to apply for college. I'm taking a gap year, but I know my sister wouldn't realistically be able to repay that kind of money. It felt like I'd be gambling my future. I said no, and she completely lost it at my aunt's house, calling me cold, cruel, and lacking compassion. She argued that her husband's life mattered more than my education and accused me of valuing school over a person's health. She asked if I'd be okay with her becoming a widow and my nephew growing up without a father. My aunt suggested asking others for help, but most of the family has already cut my sister and her husband off. I finally snapped and said his health problems weren't my responsibility after all the guilt tripping. She kept crying. While my aunt stayed mostly neutral, she warned me that refusing could permanently damage my relationship with my sister. Since then, my sister has been texting photos of her family, saying this is what I'm choosing to turn my back on: a happy home with a living father and husband. I broke down, wondering if I was being selfish and failing as both a sister and an aunt. When I talked to a friend, he said they should sell the cars and expensive things they bought to cover the surgery. He warned me that if I gave them the money, I'd likely never see it again, and my dream of medical school might disappear with it. Am I the AH for choosing my education over paying for my sister's husband's surgery? Thank you guys so much for watching, and if you made it to the end of this video, please leave a like and comment below for more videos like this. See you next time.